Bet this football season with MyBookie. Use promo code Gators and get a free $20 wager with your first deposit. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
All right, Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters, and you can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC, and joining right here on YouTube. Going to do a Q&A. Everybody out there right now, let me know if you can hear me. Okay. I was having some audio issues behind the behind the scenes, so hopefully this is going across well. I don't know what the issue is, but we'll figure it out. But if you're in there in the comments, let me know if you can hear me right now, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, going to do this. I haven't done. It's been a while probably since I've done a YouTube Q&A session, so we got that going right here for this episode. And talking a lot of Gator football. I mean, there's just even though no games last weekend and this weekend, so much so many questions, so much going on even without the games, of course. So man, this is it's weird. We're in the middle of a football season, and now we're going on 2 weeks, and look, it's not like Florida hasn't, we kind of haven't seen this kind of before. I mean, you go back and hurricane games and all that kind of stuff, the games get canceled out of the blue because of the hurricanes, and that those type of things happen. But with COVID and the coronavirus and all that stuff coming in, we knew this was probably going to be a likely scenario at some point. Florida wasn't the first SEC team. Missouri and Vanderbilt had their game canceled, and then Florida LSU have their game canceled, and we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, there's so much going on, but I figured it was a good opportunity to get caught up with you listeners there, and let's have a talk right here on YouTube. So you can send your questions, send your thoughts. So we'll go back and forth and kind of, just break down a little bit your guys' thoughts, my guys' thoughts of what's going on out there. It can be football related. We can talk a little recruiting. Somebody else has already sent a question there. I'll get to that about recruiting. So, we'll go with that, but mostly just, football, what's going on with the football team right now. We did get to talk to Dan Mullen today on this Wednesday for an SEC teleconference. And so it was kind of questioning, if he would be on there because of everything going on. But luckily he was, so he did get to talk to the media there. They made the decision last Monday when word started kind of creeping out. Everything kind of came out last Tuesday. But they made the decision last Monday to shut down everything for 14 days. So there you go. That's pretty much, I think they kind of knew maybe how widespread it was going to be with the test coming back Sunday and Monday. So I do think they had a pretty good inclination that there were going to be some issues there for the Gators and bringing all that together. So 2 weeks. And we'll get into that. I know there's going to be some questions about that, how that affects Florida. We'll have an episode about that next week as well when team hits the field again next Monday there. But before we move forward, of course, everybody, first of all, if you're right here on the YouTube, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for getting here. I'll put your questions in the comment section or the chat section of YouTube. I'll be able to get to them, and we'll go from there and talking Gators here, and hopefully a good discussion and maybe not ruffle too many feathers. And we'll look at it that way. Reminder, before we move forward, you can get your Gators Breakdown merchandise at ebay.com/str/Gators Breakdown. That's ebay.com/str/Gators Breakdown to get your Gators Breakdown merchandise. And remember, you can find Gators Breakdown on news4jax.com/Gators Breakdown. You'll find all the Gators Breakdown episodes there, as well as News4Jax coverage of the Gators. Please share, rate, and review the show on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out here on Gators Breakdown. Or if you just want the audio version, if you're just checking out the audio version, you can check us out on your favorite podcast platform. And follow Gators Breakdown on social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook at Gators Breakdown. So let's get to some of these questions here, and let me scroll back up to the top, and let's see where we're going. First with this, like I said, this is gonna be kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. So we'll go there and have the conversation. David Soderquist, man, yeah, thanks for hopping on. He says, I'm worried these bye weeks will actually hurt us more than help us with not being able to practice till game week. Yeah, I brought that up kind of last week. You know, Will and I, we talked right before the episode, and we kind of brushed on it a little bit too. I mean, yeah, to me, this can go one of two ways for Florida. I think they could either rally around it, because everything is there to still play for, especially after Georgia and Alabama this past week. You're still on even footing with Georgia right now. There's still everything to play for this Gators team, but don't get me wrong, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. You know, you're going 2 weeks without taking practice reps, 2 weeks without being you're not being around your teammates, 2 weeks after a loss. You know, the first thing you want to do when you take a loss is get back out there on the field and see if you can rectify that loss. And, you know, Gators lost their last game to Texas A&M, and Florida needed to make some changes on the defensive side of the ball as far as scheming and personnel and who's out there and what Todd Grantham's doing. And here we are now. Now you get to one positive is they do get to look at a whole lot of film in this time, but you still have got to apply what you see in the film the last couple of weeks. And you can't apply that right now. Now you can have Zoom meetings with the players. The coaches and the players are having Zoom meetings. They are communicating. It's not like that, but there's no physical activity whatsoever except for workout plans Nick Savage has sent them. And you can't make them do it. How do you know if they're doing it or not? It's not like you have 24-hour surveillance on these players and making them work out. And but right now, the most important thing is on the field practice reps, and that's what Florida's not getting right now. So, like I said, it can go one of two ways. I think, to be this way, I think the Missouri game's going to be tough, not because Missouri is a really good football team, and we'll get a whole lot better read on them, but, you know, good win for them versus LSU a couple weeks ago. But, you know, with Florida not on the field for 2 weeks, the offense could come out a bit rusty. And like I said, if you're going to implement some of these changes on defense that we think we're going to see personnel-wise and scheme-wise, you got to figure that out in a short window. And they say Monday, this coming up Monday, will be when they get all together. But it's not going to be everybody. I don't think all the staff will be out there. I don't think every player who's tested positive will be out there on the field Monday. They're going to gradually have to come back from whenever they tested positive. So you're not even going to have a full team when you hit the practice field on Monday. So there's going to be a short window for some of these players out there. And, you know, if you believe, you know, in some of the personnel changes may have to be done or may happen anyway because there's not going to be certain players available. So, you know, we'll see where it goes. But I think, Dave, yeah, man, I kind of said these bye weeks, having two of them, look, these are not traditional bye weeks. And Mullen even said that today in the teleconference. You have three, during a bye week, a normal traditional bye week of a regular football season, you still have 3 practices a week. Florida hasn't been on the practice field since last Monday. So there you go. I mean, I can see the thought, believe me, of, you know, this hurting Florida more than it helps. And it's a catch-22. Yeah, you get a lot of film. Yeah, you got a lot of film to watch and figure out what you want to do there, but you still got to apply all that stuff. And that's where it can get a little tricky. Little tricky there. Dave here too says, do you think Kyrie Campbell actually comes back for the Missouri game this time, or is it all smoke again? I mean, the last game for Texas A&M, it was, I think, 50-50 at best. And it was last I had heard for the LSU game before it had got postponed was he was ready to go and that he would be out on the field. So I think he's there. I think it helps Florida. And I'll get into some more questions because I'm sure we'll get into kind of some more defense stuff. But as I said before, I don't think Kyrie Campbell's a special player, but he's a good enough player to help you there. And he helps all your good players get in their more natural positions and helps everybody else. Helps everybody else out there. There. Let's see. Oh, and scroll all the way to the bottom. So here we go. Let's see. Gator Country 94 says, hope the defense will be better after this break. And yeah, I mean, that kind of goes to the whole big picture thing of what you think about this break, as I said. And you got the meetings, and Todd Grantham can sit there, and Christian Robinson, and all the defensive staff, all the defensive coaches. As I said before, I kind of want to go back to this. When it looks this bad, now look, it ultimately falls on the coaches. It ultimately always falls back on the coaches. But when it looks this bad, you can point it to the coaches, and you can point it to the players. And Juwan Taylor, who was a former Gator defensive back, this is his first year not playing for Florida. He's played under this Todd Grantham defense the last couple of years. And I'll give a shout out to Nick Taylor and Andrew Spivey for Gator Country for having him being on their podcast. And one big complaint for this Gator defense was, why are the DBs playing so far off? Why are the DBs not up on the wide receivers? And he said that's on the players. They are in the scheme when it's 3rd and 6 and the DBs are playing 8 yards off. He says that's the player problem. They have to know where the sticks are, and they have to know to play up in those situations, and the players aren't doing that. And but my thing is, if there's the same players out there and they are the ones messing up and they are the ones who can't line up right, put them on the bench. And, there's the thought, well, who are you going to replace them with and all that kind of stuff. Well, that maybe is part of the problem as well. We've lauded this defensive recruiting to a bit, but they are short in some areas. And honestly, look, right now it doesn't matter who you put there at safety. Florida has issues. Does Donovan Steiner or Trey Dean or Rashad Torrance or Brad Stewart, now that he's back, whoever's out there, it hasn't made that much of an issue or a factor who's out there. They're giving up big plays and they can't tackle. So who are you going to replace somebody with? And I know, everybody, Marco Wilson had the terrible game last game. You want to replace him with some young players. And look, that could happen. I think you will see more Travis Johnson out there in the nickel star position. You will see other players in that defensive backfield, young players, I think get a shot coming up, especially after these last 2 weeks now, of being able to identify who can go out there and make more plays. So, I mean, Florida has some players they can put out there and go back to, but it is a funny way of looking at, just because somebody's messed up, you want to take them out. But the question is who you're going to replace them with. And I know there's this big thought out there of the youth movement and getting younger players out there, and I get it, I really do. But there's some accountability issues that behind the scenes that some of those guys have to live up to their billing and be at meetings on time and be found when it's their turn in practice and not playing around and not being able to ready to go for their reps. So there's little things like that that go a long way. But yeah, there's gonna have to be some players who get more of a chance to go play now, and maybe even more in their more natural positions. Mamu Diabate, to me, that Bernie to a point too, they're not linebackers. And Florida's tried to force him there at that linebacker position, and it's not working. Mamu Diabate is a speed rusher. Amari Burney, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he can play linebacker or not. I don't know if he's a safety. I don't know if he's a nickelback. I mean, he might be one of those true tweeners that you just don't know where to put him. And that's a problem. This is his 3rd year in this Todd Grantham defense, and it seems to me they're still having issues of where they can put him to have some success. And to me, he had a pretty good freshman season when they moved him around, and he had spots at linebacker. He had spots at safety. He had spots at nickel. They didn't necessarily try to work him into one position, and he showed flashes his freshman year. So I do wonder, and I think the biggest question for this defense is, and go back to our episode, not this past Monday, but the Monday before that, is, well, just why does it seem like it's in year 3 and the defense is getting worse? And there's enough players who've played a lot of snaps on this defense where you don't have this big, gigantic drop-off that we're seeing. And that's an issue. That's a problem. You shouldn't – I can understand to a point of getting worse. It happens. but not the big gigantic fall off that we've seen this year. That's the worrisome part. And I think some of it, I'm tired of the COVID excuse and all that. I think that can lend itself to a game or two, but not in game 3 against Texas A&M, and you still look like you can't cover a deep ball or you can't tackle or whatever. So I think there was a little bit of an excuse for some defenses and a lot of defenses out there of why some defenses are behind the curve, especially compared to offense. But Gator Country, going back to your point, hope the defense will be better after the break. Hopefully they've identified something. As I said, my worry now is the physicality that they've missed the last 2 weeks when tackling has been an issue. So there we go. Let's see. Neil Evan, what are you feeling about Anthony Trish at Pro Football Focus? Man, what a hill he's dying on there, trying to put out there that Kyle Trask isn't all he's cracked up to be. Whatever, man. I probably kind of went a little overboard on Twitter a bit with that, but I don't get it. Trask for what he's done for Florida and Florida football and this Florida offense. I mean, let's go out there and look at. I mean, look, I've retweeted a whole bunch of our good friend SEC StatCat of a lot of stats that he comes up with as far as, and look at. I'm a numbers guy, you guys know that, but it's got to be in context. It's got to make sense. And for and I refuse to read the last article because Treese just really decided that he's got a hill to die on, that he's not going to give Trask a whole lot of credit for. And then he tweets a video of Trask finding open receivers, throwing the ball on time, making good throws, making good decisions to kind of back up his point. I'm sorry. I mean, you put out a video that shows Trask doing what he's supposed to be doing and completing passes and finding the right guy on time and putting it in stride where the receiver or the running back out of the backfield can make a play. I don't know the point he's trying to make. I don't get it. So, I mean, is it that Kyle Trask is an elite? Okay. I mean, stats say he is right now. So we'll see. I mean, look, we go back to this past week. Are there things we want to see this offense better at? Sure, but it's nitpicking, and to go and keep basically trashing Trask for clicks, basically. I think is what it boils down to. And you guys know I'm not that type. I don't. I speak my mind, and I mean what I say, but it's not ever going to be to the point of trying to get attention or gain attention just for the sake of making you listen to the podcast for clicks or anything. Not me, not how I do things. But it is what it is. It is. I mean, I don't expect everybody to agree. And, maybe if Kyle Trask isn't one of the SEC's best quarterbacks, nation's best quarterback, but if you're going to argue, at least make your criticism make sense. And that one doesn't. So there we go. I'll move on for that one. Adrian Raps. Here we go. Good question. Here we go. Should we replace Grantham or let him stay next season? I'll get into that more next week. It is a topic I want to save for next week because I think Florida's going to hit this is right now with what's going on with COVID and everything. There's a reset button that needs to be hit. I do think an ultimatum needs to be made from Dan Mullen to Todd Grantham. Hey, look, something has to change. It cannot look like this. We have this offense. It's a team game. And look, Dan Mullen's ultimately responsible for this too because he's the head coach. But, you sit Todd Grantham down and it's like, hey, we have this offense. It's scoring points. We need the ball more. And something has to change. So I think there's a meeting of the minds, and hopefully that has taken place, or it's taken place the last couple of weeks. But, hey, change. You got to change something. I'll give you a chance as long as you're willing to change and try some different things. If you're going to die on your hill, if you're going to die by the way of you just doing the way you want to and nothing changes, well, then you can go find another place to work. I'll give you, but to me, you always give somebody a chance to change before you make any kind of move like this in college football. And look, the defense hasn't been horrible the first 2 years. Now, has it had bad spots and taken advantage of some pretty bad quarterback play? Yeah. But that's part of doing what you're supposed to do. But there was no excuse for the LSU game at times last year and the Georgia game the last 2 years and all that. And this defense needed to take a step in year 3. And there's no excuse for what we've seen this year. So I do think there is an ultimatum that needs, I'm not sure it happens. Should we replace Grantham? If nothing changes by the end of this year, yes. I do think you give him a chance to change things. You give him a chance to make some personnel changes. You give him these 2 weeks that we've had now to learn something, to take something and whatever he's learned the last 2 weeks and change it. You give him a chance to change it to make it better. And but this way, you got to exhaust all options at this point, just to kind of see. And I'm afraid that if it looks as bad as it's looked these first 3 games, I don't think you have a choice. I think something has to be done, but I'm not so sure it will be done. So something has to change to get better to make him stick around for another year. I know a lot of Gator fans don't want him around. Didn't want him in the first place, honestly. And we'll get into more next week where we can have some more meeting of the minds there. But to kind of, Adrian Raps, to kind of go to your question there, should we replace Grantham? I'll put it right here. No for now, because doing it in the middle of the season does nothing whatsoever. It's not going to happen in the middle of the season. So that's one reason I lean kind of where I lean, and it's probably changing my mind a little bit because I know it's not going to happen right now. Now, at the end of the season, if it doesn't get any better, then to me, you have to make a move. You have to. But I ultimately don't know if it will or not. So let's go. George says, yeah, oh dear Lord, please hire a better defensive coordinator. Let's see. B-Ray, let's go here. He says, do you think we'll be able to replicate what Alabama did to Georgia through the air? Watching that game gave me hopes for Georgia-Florida game this year. B-Ray, the best thing I can really tell you is go listen to the last episode of Gators Breakdown. Said we discussed that at length, Will Miles and I, and I'll rehash it a little bit just in case you guys out there didn't really get to listen to that episode. Do I think? No, I don't. But that also doesn't mean Florida can't have success versus Georgia. First of all, it's 2 different kind of offenses, and Florida doesn't have those weapons at receivers. Waddle, Smith. Now, they don't have a Kyle Pitts either. So that's what I'm saying. There's some different offenses here, some different philosophies, some different scheming going on, of course. Mullen doesn't throw, even in his offense and even transitioning to this passing offense that he has now, it's not a, push it down the field type of offense. It's just not. It is they use their receivers, their outside receivers to push defenders down the field and then get the ball underneath a guy, break a tackle, go make some plays. And that's kind of what it's more of an east-west offense toward the middle of the field. The chances are there. And I do think watching what Alabama did, you try and incorporate some of that. Absolutely, I think you do. But the type of receivers Florida has right now, Grimes, Shorter, even what Tony can do is not necessarily what Waddle and Smith do for Alabama. Even Tony's kind of a different type of receiver than those guys. And I really think, with Pitts and Tony, you can do a lot of good things versus that Georgia defense. So it's just not the same of what you're going to see what Alabama did. Just because, like I said, go back and listen to the last episode. Against a similar defense in Texas A&M and stuff, Florida couldn't blow the top off. Florida scored a lot of points versus Texas A&M, so that's what I'm saying. I think they can have success, but they didn't score a lot of points the way Alabama did in these big passes down the field and hitting a wide receiver deep, and that wide receiver either behind the coverage already or breaking one tackle already with a deep pass and making a score out of it. So it's different type of offenses. I still think Florida can have some success versus Georgia, and we'll go back to the point we made. Florida's going to have to run the ball. The reason it worked for Alabama a bit is because they can run the ball as well. They have a better offensive line. They have a better stable of running backs, I believe. There at Alabama, recruiting matters. It showed up again Saturday. You had those top teams out there, and the talent's a little even overall, but you have a difference of talent at quarterback for Alabama over Georgia. You have a difference of talent at offensive line. I think right now, Georgia has recruited really well. I still think Alabama a little bit more experienced this year. Overall talent playing together. I think so. I think they're the better receiver talent at Alabama. So to me, I think Georgia probably has better overall talent on the defensive side of the ball. Alabama has better overall talent on the offensive side of the ball, especially when you factor in quarterback. That was a difference in the game. And it's a quarterback, it's an offense game right now. It's that way in college football, it's that way in the NFL. That was your difference Saturday night. Florida's going to have the better quarterback. Florida's going to have the better stable of receivers when they play Georgia. So that's why I think there's still a chance. Florida plays pretty good now. How are these? And I'm going to go back to it a lot. These 2 weeks that we are looking at right now, how does that affect Florida? How does that affect how in sync the offense is? So, Florida coming back and getting in better shape for Missouri and Georgia coming up it's imperative. Florida takes these next couple of weeks pretty important to get ready for that Georgia game. So, guys, before we move on, ever since I started Gators Breakdown, people have been asking me who's going to win, and a lot of the time what team they should bet on. Well, the best piece of advice is where you're betting, just as important as who you're betting on. And that's why I always tell people to visit my bookie. They've got deposit matches, free bets, and huge cash prizes for you to take advantage of all season long. NFL action? Check. College football? Check. Plus, they have mobile-friendly website and top-of-the-line customer service, making their platform a one-stop shop for all your betting needs. And the best part is, my bookie has hooked us up with promo code GATORS, which gives you a free $20 wager to get some skin in the game. It's low risk, high reward, which makes this offer a no-brainer. That's a free $20 bet to use on anything in the sportsbook, and it's completely on the house. You can't beat free, and you certainly cannot beat free money. Sign up at MyBookie today and use promo code GATORS to claim your deposit bonus. Stacked UFC cards, presidential prop bets, good times await. Sign up today to begin your winning season only at MyBookies. All right, here we go. Let's get back to these questions. And hardwired to self-destruction. Dan, thanks for hopping in on here. I know you're always watching. Is Dan Quinn snatched up yet? No, he's not. But of course, we'll have to wait till a move is made for sure. Eric Green says, do you think they play some of the young middle linebackers? I do. I don't think you have much of a choice at this point. There were some of the young players I said that had to grow up off the field in the last few weeks. And, we expect Derek Wingo to be a leader at some point and get on the field. There you go. Tyron Hopper, another one that we've heard some good things about, but highly rated linebackers you expect to be on the field at a position you're struggling at right now. I think Ventrell Miller's fine. I think he doesn't get a lot of help from the defensive front. And I'm not sure he's that type of linebacker that, can go in there and put his head in there over and over and over again without some, look, a lot of linebackers aren't that way. They need some help up front, especially in this Todd Grantham defense and the way it goes. You're playing down numbers a bit. You're outnumbered from the offense to the defensive front. And, I mean, some of that's a lot of scheming issues from Todd Grantham. For whatever reason, you put your defense at a disadvantage of being outnumbered from the offense. So, I do kind of get back to your point here. I do want to see some of these young linebackers out there and see what they can do. James Houston, will probably get some more playing time as well. He didn't play the Texas A&M game. Didn't play a lot the first game either, I believe. So that's why you saw a whole lot of Amari Burney and Mamu Diabate there. But, I want to see Wingo and Hopper just to get Diabate more on the edge. And a lot of the defense, that's a lot of the issue is you got so many guys playing out of position because you decided to play a lot of guys out of position to begin with. If that makes sense. So, you Burney out there, Diabate out there at linebacker, for whatever reason, you decided to put them there and not, and for Diabate at least, reduce his chances at rushing the passer. So, it goes back to Kyrie Campbell and getting him back, and the importance of getting him back is it really helps this defense overall, plays guys where they need to play him. Play Kyrie in the middle. Slide Zachary Carter over, let him play some more defensive end. Let Jeremiah Moon, let Britton Cox stand up and be that edge rusher that they're better at being than their hand in the dirt. So I mean, it's a chain reaction in getting Kyrie Campbell back. Like I said, it's not that he's some, really highly rated player and going to go in all SEC or anything like that, but he's good enough to make plays, and he's good enough to help guys. So, here we go. Paul and Kathy Hewitt. Big shout out to Mayor and the Harmonic Woods tailgate crew. Miss you guys. Absolutely, absolutely. Ready to get back together and do some tailgating with the Harmonic Woods group, of course. Here we go. Florida Gators Nation. It says Missouri always blows us out of water. Yeah, I mean, Florida got a win last year versus Missouri. So, I mean, maybe it's their turn to win, and everything's kind of setting up for Missouri to kind of come in here and surprise the Gators with all this COVID stuff going on. And that kind of goes to the next part here from Keith Carlo. What happens if U.S. has another outbreak and then you can hang the season up? Probably so. Or you just play a lot less games. If Florida gets hit again, look, and let's go through this. This weekend's game versus Missouri has been pushed back to Halloween, to October 31st. That was supposed to be your bye week. And you're having these last 2 bye weeks because the LSU game is already moved to the bye week they had at the end of the year for every team in the SEC to December 12th. Florida has no more schedule flexibility. It's exhausted right now. There's no more schedule flexibility for Florida. So the only other option is if there's another outbreak, and if there's another outbreak on another team that's on Florida's schedule the rest of the way, then you're probably going to play less games. You're probably not going to play 10 games this year. They're not going to move the SEC championship game back, I don't think, unless the college football playoff decides to move their date back and give these a break. But, I mean, yeah, if there's another outbreak at Florida or another big outbreak somewhere in the SEC, especially to a team that Florida has to play, then I won't say hang it up yet, but I will say you're not getting 10 games in. So right now, Florida's still scheduled to get these 10 games in, but if something else happens, you can kind of forget about playing all these 10 games. Here we go. Grayland Person, I'll answer this. I won't answer a whole lot of, who do I want for defensive coordinator, all that kind of stuff, until something happens. To me, there's no sense in talking about it until really there's something happen. But this one here, with this, if Gus Malzahn gets fired, do you think we can get Kevin Steele? 2 things about that. Gus Malzahn has a $20 million buyout. He's not getting fired. I don't think it happens. So I think that's the biggest problem with looking at Kevin Steele. He would be at the top of my list if I'm looking for a defensive coordinator. So maybe he sees writing on the wall and wants to get out if something happens at Florida, and you have a conversation. But right now, with COVID and these universities, with you play in 10 games. Everything that's going on in college football, college sports right now, you're at a deficit. You're not making as much money this year. Every program is operating on a deficit this year. I don't think many coaches are getting fired unless you just absolutely have to. And with $20 million, how are you gonna pass that through to donors who themselves are probably even hurting for money? Now, look, some big gigantic donor could come along the way and be like, okay, well, we got to make a move. But, everybody talks about Will Muschamp, and if he gets fired from South Carolina, would he be a defensive coordinator? Or if Gus Malzahn gets fired, do you think Florida could get Kevin Steele or something like that? I don't see many coaching changes happening. Even Derek Mason at Vanderbilt, I just don't know. I don't remember how much his buyout is. Muschamp's is $13 million, so I don't see much of a move there. And Gus Malzahn, I believe, is $20 million. So, I mean, I don't see a lot of movement in the college coaching rankings this offseason. So may not be a whole lot of shuffling moving around with coaches this coming up here. Let's see. Florida Gators Nation says if Marco Wilson's out there, I'll be mad. He's going to be out there. Sorry. He's going. I think the coaching staff's still going to put him out there. Now, maybe more outside than inside. But he has struggled pretty much all season, but I know he stood up to the team. I guess it would have been last Sunday or Monday. Apologized for his play, all that stuff. But you still got to go out there and prove it, of course. So He's going to play. He's still going to play. He's still going to be a major player in this defense, I think, moving forward. So we'll see where it goes from there. As I said, you got other players, Jaden Hill, Chester Kimbrough out there. I think we will see a lot more of in the secondary. But I still think you'll see a good bit of Marco Wilson out there as well. Keith Carlo, no way Quinn will be at UF. I completely agree. Most of those guys, when they go back, especially if you're a head coach and go to the NFL, when you were a successful coordinator in the NFL before you got that job, he went from Florida to Seattle to then the head coaching job in Atlanta. He's gonna be a coordinator in the NFL again next year. So. Let's see. A lot of Marco Wilson comments there. Quentin Lee, here we go. Do you think the changes on defense will help, or do you think it's completely broken and have to start over building the defense? That's a good question, Quentin. I do think the changes help in some. First of all, the most important one, and it's not even a change, is getting Kyrie Campbell back. Now, if that doesn't happen, there's not much you can do in the trenches at that point. Unless you expect Gervin Dexter to take a big step and you have him and Slayton, but those guys will end up playing a whole lot of snaps. So those are the two guys that you got to rely on time and time again. You may have some good first halves, but by the time, especially against a team like Georgia or Kentucky or Tennessee who wants to run the ball, now I'm not saying Florida's not better than those teams. I'm just saying style of play. They're going to run it. They're going to see Florida's issues so far this season, and they're going to make Florida beat them on the ground. I think they're going to man up and try and run the ball down Florida's throat. And Florida may have some success if Gervin Dexter takes another step and Slayton's still out there. You may have some success, but by the time third quarter, fourth quarter rolls around, where are those guys at if they're having to play snap after snap after snap? So, Campbell is a good depth piece as well to help Dexter, who's a young guy and still adjusting to the college game, get out there and not have to play as many snaps. And when he is out there, he's a monster out there because he's not having to be out there play after play after play. So I think if you could get a good three-man rotation between Slayton, Campbell, and Dexter, then that's one change that you just kind of fall into because Campbell's coming back and he's out there and it helps your defense. The changes in the secondary, I think you just have to make. At safety, it's a lost cause. I mean, I don't know what – you're not putting a new piece back there. Sean Davis and Donovan Steiner and Brad Stewart, whether he shifts from safety to nickel. I mean, it's just – it is what it is at this point. And – Rashad Torrance will get probably some more playing time. I know the coaching staff was kind of high on him at one point, so we'll kind of see there. But I mean, the secondary is kind of is still, or the secondary, but particularly safety is still the worry, because I don't know. Those guys have played a lot, and it still hasn't gotten better. And there's really that's four guys right there you're talking about, and it's So I don't know what you do at safety. So the biggest thing for there is, with the changes that you make up front have to help those guys on the back end. You have to get more pressure. You have to help those guys. And Kyrie Elam, I'd say, looking at him, pretty average. Has played average. He's not living up to what we thought he would be this year, but he's not playing out there terrible. He's doing a better job than Marco, and I've been impressed with what I've seen from Jaylon Hill early. So hopefully he gets some more playing time there at corner. So I do think there's ways to get better, but also going to your next point, do I think it's completely broken? I don't think it's completely broken. I do think these changes will help. Now I don't know. It's from the issues that we see, Florida's not going to be a great defense at all this year. You may have a great game, and hopefully that's, when you play Georgia, you go out there and have a great game, but that can completely see the very next week you go play against Arkansas and lay an egg, and you maybe still win that game, but it's kind of what we've seen these first three games. It's not going to be a complete fix at any point this year. So now I think where you say, is it completely broken and have to start over building the defense? No, and that's kind of a weird question in a way, because I think Florida had to rebuild the trenches after Sunseri left. The Florida defensive tackle recruiting was terrible. Late Jim McElwain, early Dan Mullen. It was bad. And that's one reason they're in the situation they're in right now. Another reason is because Campbell's not playing and Conliffe had to retire medically. So unfortunate situations there. But Florida didn't do a good job recruiting there either at defensive tackle. So some guys have got to come along pretty quick. Your Lamar Goods and those players, they've got to step up. And, look, let me see if I can pull it up here. And I'll kind of go through the defensive depth chart as far as defensive tackle goes, and Slayton, Campbell, Dunlap. I mean, the only one that you can count on that right now is Slayton, and then you have to go all the way. There's 2 classes there that don't even count for anything. Guys that will graduate in 2021 and 2022, there's none. Then you have to go to Jalen Humphreys, Gervin Dexter, Lamar Goods, Jalen Lee. I mean, there's a big gap there between Slayton, Campbell, Dunlap. And then from Humphreys, Dexter, Goods to Lee. You go from seniors to sophomores, redshirt freshmen, and true freshmen. So, I mean, you got Christopher Thomas, Desmond Watson on the way. Desmond Watson, I mean, hopefully he lives up to the billing, because hopefully you can insert him there at defensive tackle there. But there was 2 years there, 2 cycles there for defensive tackle recruiting was absolutely terrible. So Florida's kind of already started rebuilding the defense just by getting defensive tackles in the last couple of classes, because you absolutely needed them. So I don't know, safety, something's got to happen there. That position grouping, that and linebacker, really surprising that they just haven't taken steps. And I mean, maybe we missed David Reese a lot more than I ever thought we would. Now, don't get me wrong, I was a big David Reese fan and I love what he brought to the team. But what progression have we seen from linebacker, and what progression have we seen at safety? We haven't. Those 2 positions have gotten worse. And, I mean, Houston, Miller, Brunson, Bernie, I mean, Miller about the only one that you can hang your hat on. And then Hopper, Pierre, Wingo, we were just kind of waiting for those guys to emerge. But not a lot of experience there, but behind Houston and Miller. So we'll see where that goes. But then, Dean, Davis, Steiner, Brad Stewart haven't done much at safety. I guess the question would be Travis Johnson, who played a lot of safety in high school. He's really, to me, showing out really good at nickel. Is he somebody you have to go back to and shift back to safety, because he has? And look, I was a big fan of all this versatility that Todd Grantham was bringing in, and Christian Robinson, and they're recruiting and bringing in so many versatile pieces on this defense. That hasn't worked out. I mean, maybe here you go, Quentin. Maybe to your point here, man, having to start over building on defense. Maybe you go out and recruit true position players. You go out and recruit true linebackers, guys that that will play linebacker. You don't have to play nickelback. They don't have to play rush in. They are there to play linebacker. You don't recruit guys who can play safety and or nickel. You go get a guy that will play nickel, and you go out there and get a guy that will play safety, and a guy that or will play outside corner. Maybe all this, we can play him at rush in, we can play him at buck, or we have slide him inside if he can't. I mean, maybe that's the biggest thing, I think, where maybe you can start over on defense. You don't have to start over so much because you got a lot of good pieces already, but maybe you look at it different in how you recruit these guys, and maybe you go out there and recruit guys who are just pure position fitters, and sprinkle in some of the versatile guys so you have some depth if something happens. But maybe you recruit more true position guys. Maybe that's probably where I'd start in rebuilding or retooling. There we go. Let's go retooling the defense instead of completely rebuilding. if that makes you feel better. Let's see. Here we go. Cameron Martin, let's Tennessee for a second. Does the game look much easier now? Yeah, because what are they doing at quarterback? I mean, that's wow. They are so hung on Garantano for some reason. They're afraid to move on from Garantano for some reason. Maybe that's an indictment to the other quarterbacks there, but I mean, I didn't think they looked too bad versus Georgia a couple weeks ago. But then to come out and look like what they did versus Kentucky. And don't get me wrong, it was a lot of Tennessee doing things wrong and not doing things right in that game. 2 pick-sixes and turnovers all over the place. Kentucky really benefited from Tennessee playing really bad, but that was terrible. And from what we've seen the last 2 years, I mean, but honestly, in a way, what we saw last week versus with Tennessee and Kentucky looked a whole lot like Tennessee 2 years ago when Florida went up there and beat Jeremy Pruitt in his first season up in Knoxville. But also, I mean, I don't know what they point to. That offensive line that they were supposed to be, filled with 5 stars and playing so well, they, ranked like medium near to bottom of the SEC, and a lot of important statistics that you would thought with that offensive line they'd be better as the quarterback's getting hit. They're not rushing for a whole lot of yards. So a couple of weeks ago, I thought they looked okay versus Georgia, but then they just with a stinker versus Kentucky this past week. So does it look much easier? I'd still say about the same where I thought beginning of the season. But that game's toward the end of the year. We'll see where Florida's at that point. I'm going to hang my hat back again on these 2 weeks that Florida's missed. If Florida somehow loses to Missouri, I'm not predicting that. But, with everything going on, it's certainly possible. Then you go out there and beat Georgia or lose to Georgia. Where is this Gator team at mentally? So by the time you get to that Tennessee game at the end of the season, is Florida playing for a whole lot? I don't know. So I think that kind of, can be where you look at what's going on with this Florida team by the time they go and play Tennessee. Let's see. All right, let's get through some more of these. All right, sorry for the dead air here. I'm trying to read at the same time as going through these comments. It looked like got scrolling through a big problem here. All right, sorry if I missed some, but I will be going through. I saw one, but I'm trying to get back to. I don't even know where I was at. So many comments now. That's what happened here. Their producer took to go along with this and put everything up here. So, let's see, Quentin, let's see, do you think Grantham needs to simplify things for the players on defense? I think that needs to be the exact first thing that needs to happen. Even with the players that have played and struggled so far, I do think it can get a bit easier if they simplify the play calling for this. The guys, they can't get lined up. And I don't know what that's another thing. This is year 3 in this defense. What in the world are guys doing out there that can't get lined up? I don't get that part of it. There's no excuse for it. These guys have played a lot. There were so many, I think 12 players who played at least 200 snaps or something like that on defense, or the stat I had a couple weeks ago. I mean, we'll see. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know where they go from here. Matt Jones says, is it possible a lot of the players on defense just simply aren't putting the work in? Maybe they took things for granted. This can't all be on Grantham. I think that is very plausible. I do think that is an issue as well. And I think some guys on defense did take things for granted. But at points too, there's still certain aspects we see on game day to throw some shade Grantham's way too. Like I said, to be this bad, what we're seeing for Florida, it has to be bad for personnel, scheme wise, everything. It all has to be bad to be this bad. There are simple fixes I think you can do that can go a long way. And if this defense can get anywhere close to average, I do think we can see some improvement and at least get the offense to ball more. That's really all this defense needs to do is get the offense to ball more. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. I am getting so lost in the comments here, so I will try and backtrack my way through here, and see where we go. SEC Gamer says, why are we playing so many McElwain guys on defense? It's time to see the guys Mullen has brought in. I mean, that's part of it too. I mean, these guys toward the tail end of McElwain that are playing now were necessarily thought of as high level recruits. And the guys that Mullen has brought in, defensive recruiting star-wise, has been pretty good. But as I said, kind of just going back to the point I had, I think there are a lot of guys playing out of position and a lot of the young guys playing out of position. So, but like I said, I do think we see some movement here. I do think with these 2 weeks that personnel will be a big factor in moving forward the rest of the season here. All right, let's see here. Well, first of all, guys, thanks for sending them in. I'm glad I'm getting lost in the comments here because the conversation's going pretty good right now. James Russell, here we go. How happy will you be just to watch the team back on the field? Having a podcast, I'd be really happy. But as I said, the reason I've always started the podcast for this is because I'm a fan first. I'm a Gator fan first. I want people to know that. I don't shy away from it. I don't hide from it. I've always kind of considered myself a fair fan, a balanced fan. But if I'm in the swamp on game days, and if I'm not in the press box, I'm in the stands, gator chomping and swaying back and forth and singing Tom Petty just like the rest of you. I will never hide the fact that I am a full-fledged Gator fan, but I try and be non-biased as I can. And I've even that before the podcast. That's one reason I wanted to start the podcast. So, but James, to your point, how happy will I be? I'll be ecstatic, man. I love the game, and I love watching college football. Even when Florida's not on, you guys can follow me on Twitter. I'm watching college football. I am a college football fanatic. It's Gators. Maybe gonna go to camera right here. It's Gators and it's college football. And I'm a huge college football fan. But to watch that orange and blue run out of the tunnel, I'll be happy, man. And with everything that's going on, and I hope the staff and the players, first of all, I hope they're all healthy. And Mullen did tell us that today, that the symptoms out there for everybody involved right now don't seem to be too bad there. So we'll see. Fatigue's part of it. We'll see how the team can bounce back for that. But yeah, I'm glad the first game's a home game that's coming back when Florida and Missouri play on the 31st. It's good that it's a home game. I think it gets the players back in the good graces of the swamp. And we'll see that the 17,000 there be probably just as happy as I am. So yeah, I'll be happy just because I love watching the Gators play. Hopefully they put out a good performance out there. Hopefully we can all enjoy a day of Gator football where the defense comes together and helps out the offense, and Florida goes out there. Look, it's always funner. It's always more fun out there watching your team win, of course. But I'll be happy, of course, in the beginning of the game, Florida's running that tunnel, and we see the offense on the field for the first time, whatever. Still be happy, joyous moments, and I'll be throwing my hat there. Never mind, I'll be in the press box. But it still be, inner me will still be grumbling a bit if the defense comes out there and doesn't look a whole lot better. So, we'll see. And understandable everything that's happened the last couple of weeks as well. I know a lot of people don't want excuses at all. I think this may be one. But we'll see where it goes. As I said, this team can rally around it. This team can get behind it, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I'll be happy. I'll definitely be happy when this Gator team is back on the field. Michael Turk, what about Emory Jones? Is he going to be involved in the future? So a lot of people, if you don't know, it's out there now too much anyway. He was injured. I think the Ole Miss game, he was injured. Injured his hand or his wrist. He's been in a cast. He didn't travel to Texas A&M last week. So he hasn't been playing because he's been injured, not because anything happening or anything like that. But we'll see. Slim, I think Kyle Trask comes back next year. I think he's on his way to the NFL. I know there's a possibility. This is a free year for everybody. Surprises have happened before, but Kyle Trask, I think, will be in the NFL next year. So that leaves the job open for Emory Jones to take over. And Dan Mullen just doesn't like to play a whole lot of young quarterbacks. So I don't know. Even, we hear some really great returns on Anthony Richardson. Put it this way, if Anthony Richardson is your quarterback next year, that means he went out there and beat Emory Jones. And that means he put a lot of trust in his staff, because you go and look at Dan Mullen's history. He doesn't play young quarterbacks unless he absolutely has to. And next year, if Emory Jones is still on the team, and I don't see him transferring, there's no sense in transferring right now. You're the guy next year. This is your job to lose next year. But if he does lose it, and Anthony Richardson's the starting quarterback for the Gators next year, take that as a good sign. Don't take it as a bad sign. Take it as a good sign, because that means Anthony Richardson went out there and proved it. It means Anthony Richardson went out there and week after week and throw after throw and play after play went and proved that he deserves to be the starting quarterback. Now, my prediction, Emory Jones will be the quarterback next year for the Gators, and Florida will probably have a pretty really good option behind Emory Jones with Anthony Richardson. But, I still think he's involved in the future. I think when he's healthy, we'll see him on the field a bit. Will and I talked about that this past week. He still can open up the run game a bit. We talked about the struggles in the run game on Monday. So, Michael, if you haven't listened to that episode, you can go back to that and see why we think Emory Jones is still an important part of this offense moving forward when he's healthy. But I still think he's involved in the future here for the Gators. So, yeah, it is interesting to talk about the quarterback position still, even with what we know to be really good this year and kind of project for the rest of this season and next season as well. But I think he's in the plan. I do think he's in the plan. So, all right, let's see. About time to wrap this up. We've been going for about an hour now. Let's see. Let's see if I can get a couple more in here. Maybe some quick hitters. All right. If I missed your question, guys, I am absolutely sorry. It's a lot to keep up with by myself here, going through this. But thank you so much for joining us here, or for joining me here for this YouTube Q&A. I just thought about it last week. I want to give you guys out here on YouTube who join every week. Like I said, you see kind of how hard it is during a show, kind of going and producing live at the same time with me and Will. I look at the comment. I really do look at the comments. Maybe we can incorporate them in the show a bit more. But I did want to throw you guys a bone just because you're here every week watching us live Monday nights. So I wanted to thank you guys from some interaction with you. I know I pay a lot more attention to Twitter and bring the tweets into the show, but I wanted to throw a whole show your way here. So, Quentin Lee, one thought here. Do you think the players don't trust Grantham because one player told Todd that he feels more comfortable standing up than his hands in the dirt? Quentin, I've heard behind the scenes stuff like that too, man, that some of the players do not feel comfortable where they are playing in this defense. And that has to be communicated. Now, if you're putting players out there, they're not comfortable, that's a problem. That's an issue. And if they're out there and they're not comfortable and a big play happens, well, whose fault is it? He told you he didn't want to be out there. He told you he wasn't comfortable in the position, and you threw him out there anyway. I mean, that's a problem. That's an issue. And I think there's enough pieces out there where some guys would feel comfortable in that position. If one player doesn't, throw the player out there who wants to be out there and who feels more comfortable out there. Maybe wants to is the wrong word. That player probably, even though he's out of position and he doesn't feel comfortable, probably still wants to be out there to go try and make a play and help his teammates out. But if he's not comfortable, I mean, you're going to give up plays. And there you go. I mean, Quentin, man, I've heard some stuff like that too with the defense and some guys just not comfortable in their positions. Let's see. Sean Steed, Wright needs more reps. Had a great game versus Texas A&M. Sean, man, the only point I'll make there is a lot of people need a lot more reps, and it's so hard because there's just not a whole lot of plays out there. This defense, going back to the defense again, they've got to help this offense get the ball more so we can see more players like Wright and Copeland and Shorter. All these weapons we think Florida has, we don't get to see because they're not on the field. And when Florida feels the pressure to score, and when you're Kyle Trask, who are your best chances to score? It's Kyle Pitts, and it's Kadarius Toney. And those are the guys that are getting the ball right now because there's a lot of comfortability there. There's a lot of reliability there. And you're going to score points because, I mean, look, of course, the offense wants to go out there and score points every time they have the ball. But there's a certain pressure with it now. And I think, with the limited plays, we're seeing those guys get the ball a bit more. So, yeah, it's I want to see I want to see a lot more Wright too, and not because of Malik Davis' fumble. I think Malik Davis can still be a player for this team. It was an unfortunate fumble. I know he's had issues in the past. I didn't have a problem with him getting the ball in that situation. It just happened. I know the history there. Now, do I think he'll get more chances like that in this season? I don't, and probably rightfully so. But looking back at it, I didn't have a problem with it at the time. It just happened. I still think he'll be a big contributor this season. He was playing really good before that, and I hate to beat it over his head just because of that play. And him fumbling and him not getting a chance to come back for it. Now, maybe not in the fourth quarter, maybe not late in the fourth quarter in that situation, but you still got to get Malik Davis the ball because he was playing really well before that. And unfortunate that he fumbled there. So here we go. Sean says, do I think, and kind of going back to running backs here, do I think we'll see Lingard at all this season? I hope so. I haven't heard a whole. He was injured coming out of camp. He got hurt in one of the scrimmages there. Hopefully, with these 2 weeks here, we get something and we see. I just really I haven't heard a whole lot of stuff coming out because, of course, right now just not a whole lot going on around the team because. Just there's nothing going on. Nothing's coming out because nothing's going on there. So I'll try to dig around a little bit more with Lingard and see where he's at. Hopefully we see him, but I'm just not sure. Of what we'll see from Lingard this season. Florida doesn't need him. That's one thing. And look, we're already talking about this guy needs the ball more. That guy needs the ball more. But then you're adding one more mouth to feed right there. So I'm not. That's an issue there. If he does come along, you're taking carries away from Davis or Wright or Pierce. And right now, that trio looks pretty good in the limited number of runs and passes out of the backfield that they have. So I don't know. Maybe they don't force him back because they don't necessarily really need him this year. Go get healthy. I don't know what the injury necessarily was. It wasn't too serious. I don't think he wasn't going to miss the whole season. But it would be nice to see him sprinkled in if the Gators offense gets more plays this season coming up. So, all right, guys, thank you. Quentin Lee. I'll finish it up here, man. Let me talk here. I'm trying to read at the same time. I don't know. Do you think we should hit the transfer portal at nose tackle? Absolutely. I did put that on Twitter. I was talking to some guys yesterday on Twitter. Florida absolutely has to hit the transfer market for defensive linemen next year, especially in the middle. You've got to go find somebody there and shore up. The way, like I said, the way recruiting has been, you don't have a lot of experience at defensive tackle past this year. So you really, really need to go find, and Mullen's been gold at hitting the transfer market. And hopefully had Schuler as a transfer who integral part of this defense the last couple of years right there in the middle of that defense. And you're going to have to go find somebody like him or hopefully better, but find somebody at least to give you what Schuler gave you. And there you go. I absolutely, Florida has to hit the transfer market for defensive tackle next year. Has to. All right, guys, there we go. Thank you very much, YouTubers. And like I said, I can't thank you enough for joining us here every week. You guys keep the comment section on fire, and I'm glad I could give you something back. We'll definitely do this again. It was so good to have the conversations we had. I know it was mostly focused on the defense. I know you guys, that's the issue right now. The negativity sometimes outweighs the positivity. So that's one reason I kind of wanted to feature the offense this past week. And I know it wasn't in too much of a positive light for the offense, but the defensive talk is just dominated everywhere else. You can get a whole lot of defensive talk, but I knew this, what you guys probably would bring to the table here. I gave you my thoughts there. I'm not happy with it. I'm not. And you guys know, I am slow to fire people. I've always been that way. I was slow that way with McElwain, and I defended him probably longer than I should have. That Michigan game in 2017, you remember, that was the linchpin game for me. It's so much. That was teeter-totter there. And after the Michigan game, I was done. I was done with Jim McElwain. And so, where would that point come with Todd Grantham? It may have already happened. We'll see. But the part, like I said, part of the reason is I know nothing's going to happen anytime soon. So that's kind of just where I get conservative with it a little bit. If it keeps trending like it is, then it's a no-go. It's something has to happen. Something has to happen. But many of you guys out there have been on the, don't hire Todd Grantham, fire him right away or whatever, and I'll give you kudos for that if it ends up happening and not working out. Some of you guys hit that one from the start. So all right, everybody, thank you much once again. Check out Gators Breakdown. Go back and listen to Monday's episode with Will Miles and I. We'll try to have a recruiting episode with Corey Bender coming up from Rivals probably on Sunday. And then another special episode on Monday, trying to work on a few guests for next Monday as well. No game to review, of course, with Florida and Missouri getting moved to October 31st. So recruiting episode for sure next week. And then we'll go from there. We'll definitely have a Florida Missouri preview next week, looking at that game as well. So that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown, this YouTube Q&A version. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thanks for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown.